Hey everyone, Come Mike here from MLive.com, joined by Justin Rogers. Jim Caldwell dropped some news today, Justin, as usual, Monday press conference with the release of Alex Henry. We all expected it, and they didn't waste any time making the move. So the question now becomes, who do they sign to replace him? Bringing in some guys this week, including Matt Prater, who is drawn some interest because he's so good. He's a Pro Bowler, but off the field he's got major character issues as well, and legal issues as they pertain to the league substance abuse policies. What do you make of Prater, and would you sign him?
Yeah, I would sign Matt Prater. He's got an alcohol addiction. He's in the league substance abuse program for alcohol, coming off a 4-game suspension. He's not allowed to drink at all, and knowing that he still violated it and served that 4-game suspension. There's some reports out there that it was supposed to be a year. If he does it again, it is a year. So it's a massive risk to bring in a guy that's addicted to a substance, even something as a legal substance in alcohol. Because you don't know where his mindset is in terms of personal restraint. But right now the Lions need an option that can help them win football games. They need to talk to him off the field, determine where he's at and how comfortable he is in his rehabilitation. And if they feel good with that, yeah, they should absolutely sign him. I think he's the best name out there. I don't think there's a question. He's coming off a 25 for 26 season. 64-yard field goal. I think he's 20 for 27 in his career from 50 yards. He's the best.
I agree with you. I'd bring him in. I think he's worth the risk. It doesn't, it's not. If it was a different position, maybe I would feel differently. If this was your quarterback or a cornerback or something where you scheme a guy in and you're counting on him to be there, and then if you weren't there, it'd be a major issue. It's just. He's just a kicker, and the Lions obviously know as well as anyone what they can do if you don't have a good kicker. But he's also kind of contained to himself. People aren't relying on him to be there and so forth. So you can bring him in, and if he works out, then he works out, and you'd think he would given his track record. And if he gets into trouble, you cut him and you move on, and that's the situation they're in right now anyway. So I don't think they would lose too much if they were to bring him in, and then he were to have further issues.
They're bringing in a couple other interesting options too. In Jay Feely, who's 38 years old, that's a short-term solution, but 82% field goal kicker. Doesn't have the leg strength as Prater. It's not even close. And they're also bringing a guy in Connor-Barth, who, very accurate kicker for his career, but he missed all of last season after, tearing I can't remember now if it was an ACL or an Achilles, but he injured his leg in a charity basketball game. So I don't really know what they're getting there. I don't know how the leg strength has recovered in that year away from football, but they're going to give it another whirl. This is the third such big kicker tryout they've had in the last 6 months. It's how they found Tavecchio. It's how they found Henry. Those two solutions didn't work out. They're hoping to find a solution here.
It just keeps on turning for the Lions, and I wrote about this in my column today, but it's got to be disheartening for them because they've done so much this offseason to bring in a new coaching staff, to bring in new schemes on both sides of the ball, to install those schemes, to bring in new players, the draft. They've done all this. And the offense has its problems, but it's doing enough to win games at the end of the day. The defense has been phenomenal, a top unit all year long, and you've done all these things right, and you've lost now 2 games, certainly one and maybe as many as 2, because of the kicking problems. And that's got to be so disheartening because you could be for sure 4-1 or possibly 5-0 if you had a competent guy at that position, and they haven't. They've had some major issues, and that's cost them. And I think you go back to that decision to keep Nate Freeze over Tavecchio. Anyone who watched all those practices in the media agrees that Tavecchio was more consistent throughout the camp. Freeze did get better throughout, but the Lions decided to keep the guy who seemingly kicked worse in training camp, and now they're paying for it.
Yeah, the interesting thing Caldwell admitted today to me was that their play calling changed a little bit because of the kicking game. They were playing scared essentially. He didn't use that word, but I got a lot of emails and tweets, criticism of their play calling at the end of the game where they threw a few passes. It's because they were afraid. They couldn't run it up the gut because they, whether it was a 50-yard field goal or a 46, 47-yarder, the Bills were committing a lot of guys to the box there. They were shutting down the run. It was still going to be a long field goal. They were trying to pass to get closer, so if they did need to attempt a field goal, it was in a more reasonable range. They need a kicker in here where it's not messing with their mind, where it's messing with their play calls, because like you said, the offense isn't clicking right now. You can't have that external factor screwing with everybody's minds while they're trying to perform their jobs out there.
That's what we got. The kicker situation obviously is the number one story this week for the Lions. Some other things to watch, including the Calvin Johnson injury and whether the Lions will hold him out. Caldwell intimated today that he'll strongly consider it. So certainly some things to watch, and we'll be here all week tracking it. For Justin Rogers, I'm Kyle Meinke. We are MLive. Keep it right here.